is
And
being preached to the whole world.
there's a sense, Mike, in which Christ preaches through you.
Right.
I'm not saying Christ occupies your body or anything like that, but when you preach Christ, you're, in a sense, Christ is delivering his message through you. All right, I've sent you in the private chat. Everybody should be able to see that. My comments on 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 19. Spirits in prison will be the disembodied spirits of the disobedient on whom God waited in the days of Noah. That should be a period, but see, I took this off of PowerPoint, so I don't always put periods. That shows my weakness. Their prison was the Hadean realm, where they awaited the day of judgment. And you see that in 2 Peter 2, we already read that, verses 4 and 5. And then also in Jude, verse 6, where he says, and the angels who did not keep their proper domain, but left their own abode, he is reserved in everlasting chains under darkness for the judgment of the great day. So they're waiting for the judgment. That's the key that we're looking for there. Christ is said to have preached to the Gentiles through the apostles, and similarly preached to those before the flood through Noah. So quickly look at Ephesians 2, verse 17, where Paul says, well, maybe I need to back up. Verse 14, for he himself, and of course the he there is Christ, for he himself is our peace, who has made both one, and has broken down the middle wall of separation, having abolished in his flesh the enmity, that is, the law of commandments contained in ordinances, so as to create in himself one new man from the two, thus making peace, and that he might reconcile them both to God in one body through the cross, thereby putting to death the enmity. And he came and preached peace to you who were afar off and to those who were near. Jesus never preached to the Gentiles. So how did he preach to the Gentiles? Through the apostles. How did he preach to the spirits in prison? Well, he preached to them through Noah in the days of the floods. Now I demonstrated my reasoning at least. They were in prison when Peter wrote, but they were not when Noah preached to them. Listen, what good would it do to preach to them in prison? They're already lost. Their lives are over. There is no second chance after death. Nothing in Scripture says that. So we need to be careful about that. All will be judged based on the deeds done in the body. And so will we. So will these be judged by what they did in the body, not what they did in the spirit after death. All right, is everybody with me on that?
Yeah. And I think hopefully you didn't misread my understand my comment. It's more or less I was dealing with the spirit world and the Hadean world as being the same place where the torment is. And I heard somebody preach that, and I had to make sure I understood exactly what they were saying. But I like how you explain that, the preaching through, because sometimes we fail to implicate that. And that would be just the same way for us today. God is still preaching Christ through us.
Yes.
Christ is being preached to the whole world.
There's a sense, Mike, in which Christ preaches through you.
Right.
I'm not saying Christ occupies your body or anything like that, but when you preach Christ, you're, in a sense, Christ is delivering his message through you. And that's the key. Okay, I think we're to Chip, 2 Corinthians 12, 5 and 6.
On behalf of such a man I will boast, but on my own behalf I will not boast, except in regard to my weaknesses. For if I do wish to boast, I will not be foolish, for I will be speaking the truth. But I refrain from this, so that no one will credit me with more than he sees in me or hears from me.
Okay, such a man certainly had been honored, and Paul could boast about that man's honor, which we're going to find out. That's him. That's who that is. When speaking of himself, however, Paul would only glory in his weakness. We've already seen that. We've seen quite a list of it. Boasting was foolish if one exaggerated his ability. Paul could boast without that, but he chose to stand on his own speech and his own actions. He didn't need to boast. You know what I'm like. You've seen me. You've heard me. You've seen what I do. You've heard me preach. He did not want men to honor him for the blessings God had given him. God enabled him to be able to preach, and Paul constantly was aware of that. Calyx verses 7 and 8, please, of 2 Corinthians 12.
And lest I should be exalted above measure by the abundance of the revelations, a thorn in the flesh was given to me, a messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I be exalted above measure. Concerning this thing I pleaded with the Lord 3 times, that it might depart from me.
Okay. Now, that word instead of buffet is buffet. Buffet is spelled differently, and I'd have to look that up, be honest about it, to be sure.
It's spelled the same.
What I was trying to find what no in the New American Standard says buffet too. Does everything different in different translations? Anybody got that or no? Is it always
No.
buffet?
King James version is Buffett. I can check the other versions real quick.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to see if we can see a different. I didn't think about that would be a word. In the Philippines, they probably don't use that word, so I'm looking for a different word.
What verse are you in here?
We were in 5 and 6.
5 and 6.
You just read 7 and 8.
7 and 8, excuse me.
I read 5 and 6. Calyx read 7 and 8.
Okay. Yeah, here is the way the English Standard has it this way. It starts at 7. So to keep me from being too elated by the surpassing greatness of the revelations, a thorn was given me in the flesh, a messenger of Satan to harass me. So instead of buffet, it's got harass, to keep me from being too elated. So Calyx, maybe that word's a little easier, harass, Harass, because that's what the word buffet means. And I thank you for the reading. I'm not I understand the language barrier because I don't speak a word of Spanish.
In the New Living Testament, it has torment.
Torment in which version?
New Living Testament 2.
The New Living Testament. Okay. Torment, harass, buffet. Okay. They all mean the same thing. Okay. So Paul was given a thorn. And by the way, the word he uses is literally stake. A stake in the, and we're talking about a stake like you'd drive in the ground, not a steak you'd eat. Okay. A stake in the flesh, which kept him from becoming overly proud. The physical condition kept him from being puffed up because of spiritual revelations that he had received. Paul prayed God would cause the thorn to depart. This prayer was heard, but was answered in the negative. And I suggest you compare Jesus' Gethsemane prayer. I fear that when we say, God hasn't been hearing me, what we mean is he hasn't done what I'm asking him to do. And both Jesus and Paul got an answer, but the answer was no. And we need to remember that no is an answer. It's an answer I gave my children more than once.